Hello and welcome to Baseplate Reviews. It's that time of year when we like to look back over the year and see how it's gone, so let's do that with LEGO. We've now had all of the releases for 2024, so I thought it would be a good time to look at which themes have really shone and also which ones have somewhat disappointed. To start with, I think we need to just discuss what is a theme. There are obviously some that are just really obvious. You've got the classics like City, Friends, Harry Potter, Star Wars, but you do get some themes which sit across 2 or 3 official themes. So for example, Lord of the Rings this year had sets which came out under the Icons banner and also under the Brickheads banner, but I would consider Lord of the Rings as its own separate theme. Other than that though, we also had Space, which was just an ongoing theme across multiple official themes. So we had City, Friends, Duplo, Creator, even minifigs. I wouldn't consider that its own theme, it's somewhat of a separate thing. With over 900 sets coming out over the past 12 months, there's an awful lot to look at, but what are the basic principles we need to consider when rating a theme? I think there are 3 key things that we need to look at. Selection. How many sets were actually released in the theme in 2024, and were they at a range of price points and covering a range of ideas? For example, if we went back to a truly great theme like Western in 1996 to 97, one of the reasons that was so awesome is that it went from small, largely minifigure based sets that could be picked up as a small gift on a whim, through to slightly more substantial vehicle or small building style sets, right up to full-blown villages and forts, so there was a great selection or range of sets to pick from. Somewhere LEGO doesn't always shine nowadays. Value. This should be an easy principle to get, shouldn't it? We all want to get the best value possible, and that means getting something for a price we feel good about. It doesn't just mean cheap, otherwise we can forget about value full stop with LEGO. So we know LEGO's expensive, but there are times when I think there is a collective groan at some of the pricing that LEGO's tried to throw away on particular sets, and also some pleasant surprises on rare occasions too. Quality. Of course, a selection is great to have, and getting something at a good price is nice too, but it doesn't matter if it's all trash, right? So this is the crucial category. What themes have had some awesome sets with interesting builds, great minifigures, or have just looked top notch from a display perspective? Okay, with our criteria set, then let's get into it. And we'll start off with a theme that's not lived up to expectations in 2024, and that is Ninjago. Now I know that this is an evergreen for LEGO and been an ongoing theme since 2011, and it's overall not aimed towards the likes of me. However, I do think 2024 hasn't been the greatest for Ninjago. That's because of 2 issues, one of which has been an ongoing one for some time now, and that's the similarity of some of the sets they put out. At first glance, you'd say that Ninjago does a good job of offering sets at different price points and having a breadth of choice. But if you look at these sets more closely, you can see that sometimes the differences between them are so minor as to be laughable. So, for the cheapest sets this year at just $10, props to LEGO for having sets at this price by the way, we have Kai's Rising Dragon Strike, Arin's Rising Dragon Strike and Naya's Rising Dragon Strike. And they're all basically the same set with just colour variations and different minifigs. The enemy minifigs between Naya's and Arin's sets are the same apart from the weapon accessories, and the other difference we see is a very slightly different claw design for the dragon wing in Arin's set. That's it. Of course, it's nice to be able to pick up some of the Ninjago minifigs at a cheap price, but couldn't they have added just a little more differentiation between these? On top of that, we had no fewer than 8 mech sets in Ninjago. 8. Mechs are of course good fun, and I understand the appeal, but LEGO just saturates the market across multiple themes with these, especially Ninjago, and then all the unnecessary superhero mechs they put out too. So this is where Ninjago falls down on 2 key areas of selection. Lots of sets, but they just aren't different enough from each other, and then that also means the build experience falls down, because you're just doing the same things over and over again. I'm just not sure it's the right approach to take to keep kids engaged for the future. There were some sets I thought were decent for Ninjago in 2024, which would include the one which was more of a display set in the Dragonstone Shrine, and I thought the Wolf Mask's Shadow Dojo was kind of cool with some nice elements of different colours to it. Probably the best stuff produced were the micro scale sets of the Ninjago City range. These were available as insiders rewards and included all 4 of the Ninjago City sets that have been released over the years. Unfortunately, there was no full-size new Ninjago City set this year, with City Markets coming out back in 2023. That left the big sets for this year being the $250 Tournament Temple City, which, whilst $110 cheaper than City Markets from last year, just isn't getting close to those standards, even taking into account the cheaper price. The other bigger set was the Source Dragon of Motion at $150, and I thought this was good with some excellently printed minifigs, but nothing too special. Overall then, a bit of a down year for Ninjago, and maybe as a theme it could do with a bit of a rejuvenation, although I'm not sure from what we've seen so far that 2025 is going to be the year for it. In terms of themes that I think have had a better year than the previous one, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but for my money the Super Mario sets have been a step up in 2024. Of course, most of those sets are those buildable course sets, and these are very much with play in mind. That's not a problem, but they're not always the most aesthetically pleasing, and have left people still desiring Super Mario characters in minifigure form. But I do think there have been some cool ones this year, especially the Bowser's Muscle Car expansion set, which is basically a Mario Kart set prior to the official Mario Kart sets coming out in January 2025. You had a Peach's Castle set that differentiated itself from the 2022 version by being a bit smaller but much cheaper than the previous version, and I also think the King Boo's Haunted Mansion set was a nice one that was well priced for its 932 pieces at $75. Outside of the course sets, you had the Mario and Yoshi display model in the Super Mario World style, and that had a crank for a nice movement feature. I also thought that Dory's Sunken Shipwreck Adventure was another decent course set. There were of course still some that sat in the category of hot mess. I mean, look at the Soda Jungle set for $55. It would be more appropriately named as Soda Jumble. It's not that I think the Super Mario range is top tier by any means, but I do think it's been an up year for the sets there, and it looks like 2025 with those Mario Kart sets launching could be its best year so far. Now back onto themes which haven't hit the heights this year, and I'd say that there are a few that I don't think have had stellar years, and that would include one of my favourite themes in LEGO City. It's not been terrible by any means, but there have been relatively few standout sets, with my favourites probably being the double-decker sightseeing bus and the construction excavator. There were no new train sets released, with the closest being the downtown streetcar and station, and then some of the other impressive sets were maybe just a little too oversized for the likes of city builders like me. The 16-wheel construction crane looks great, but it's just too massive for most decent-sized city layouts, and at $110 is priced accordingly. Basically, the same criticisms can be levelled at the delivery truck, which is really nice but pricey, and so big that it's more of a display than playset. On top of that, I don't think the city sub-themes were anything great, with Jungle Explorers and Space being the sub-themes. Jungle Explorers had some positives in that you could pick up some cool animals, but otherwise there was little to get excited about, and the space sets just weren't inspiring for me. Hey, at least you could get an astronaut in a wheelchair for the DEI points. Additionally, if I'm going to give Ninjago a hard time around mechs, then City also had a couple of their own, with one set being an admittedly cool Aliens Power Loader style mech, and then also one in the Robot World Rollercoaster Park set. Overall, just not a top year for LEGO City. Not awful, but definitely a weak year for me. 2025 though does look to be a promising year for City. We've got that F1 sub-theme, and on January 1st we've got what looks to be 4 excellent vehicles due to come out. So here's hoping 2025 is going to be a much better year for the theme. In terms of honourable mentions, there are other themes that have had some great sets but not the overall range to justify being the top theme overall. I'm thinking about Monkey Kid with the beautiful Celestial Pagoda and Megapolis City, but that theme just didn't have very many great supporting sets this year. Similarly, I think that LEGO Friends deserves an honorary mention, as it's a theme which has a great range of sets, from the very affordable up to the more premium large buildings like the Ace Castle Bed and Breakfast, and the most expensive ever Friends set in Andrea's Modern Mansion at that $200 price point. In terms of those affordable sets, they even have an archery range. Baseplate Reviews thoroughly approves of this. Like I say, honorary mentions, but onto a theme that deserves strong consideration for the best of 2024, and I actually think that the Disney sets were probably better overall this year than in the Disney 100 2023 year, which is surprising when I look back. The recently released Magic of Disney Ideas set is arguably the best in the theme this year, with some excellent minifigures including one of my personal favourites in Geppetto. What a weirdo, a single elderly man who carves himself a sun out of wood. I can't believe they remade that as a live action film a couple of years ago. On top of that, at the premium end of the range, you've also got Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs Cottage, with another round of great minifigures plus that awesome glass coffin. There were some pretty clever crossovers with the Botanicals range in the Moana's and Isabella's Flower Pot sets, both priced at $40 for over 600 pieces in each, and accompanying mini dolls. At the bottom end of the price range you had Belle's Storytime Horse Carriage and Elsa's Frozen Treats, both at $16, so nice entry sets there, especially Belle's one with the horse too. There were 3 pretty well received buildable figures in the $130 Young Simba Lion King, and then the smaller $20 version which holds up really well considering the price, and that it has just 222 pieces versus over 1400 for that larger set. Then probably the best of the 3 was the Stitch figure at $65 for 730 pieces, and that had a great and accurate design plus even some movement features. We also can't forget the other Ideas set, which was the Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas one that went down great just before Halloween, even though I personally wasn't so keen myself. Overall, again, like Super Mario, not a theme I personally collect, but I think this was rock solid in terms of a breadth of sets, some good quality in there, and for the most part, not too many outrageous prices either. Moving back to the theme that needs to hang its head in shame though, and the one that has to be the most disappointing for me is one that I mentioned earlier when we were talking about what makes a theme, and that's Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's been a tough year for Lord of the Rings fans, with Amazon's Rings of Power Season 2 stinking the place out, with weak acting and lack of reverence for the source material, and then you've just had the animated War of the Rohirrim released to a pretty negative reception too. You'd at least hope that LEGO may have come through for you. But no, even though it has sets that go across multiple official LEGO themes, it only released 2 sets that you could buy in 2024, plus 1 gift with purchase. Those sets were the huge and hugely expensive Barad-dûr and its accompanying GWP Fell Beast if you were lucky enough to manage to get it early on, plus 1 double pack Brickhead set in Legolas and Gimli. Man, that's some thin gruel for Rings fans to feast on. Brickheads are fine, I don't have any affinity for them myself and regard them as LEGO's version of pop vinyl figures, but they're fine as accompanying sets for people to pick up. I just can't see anyone getting too excited for them. We know there's demand out there for Lord of the Rings as the old Rings and Hobbit sets go for big money on the secondary market, and 2023's Rivendell was pretty much a standout set across all themes last year and is still wildly popular now, even with its $500 price tag. Barad-dûr has been well received too, but not to the same extent as Rivendell from what I can see, and whilst the tower looks great, especially the Eye of Sauron at the top, I think it says something when arguably the best bit of a $460 display set is actually the minifigures. It's a huge set and you can see why it's a high price, but it does still have that open back in the style of the smaller but cheaper, older Tower of Orthanc set from back in 2013, although with some sections with even less space than that older set. Like I say, the minifigures are for the most part awesome, apart from the Sam and Frodo minifigs basically being reused from the aforementioned Rivendell, without enough changes to show them going on their arduous journey into and through Mordor. It's crazy that we hadn't seen Sauron in LEGO form before this set, so that's great, plus the Mouth of Sauron is another top tier minifig along with the orcs and a new golem. This is of course a great set, but it's the only minifigure one fans are getting this year apart from the GWP Fell Beast, which I think was a rather weak gift to get for such a big purchase. In the end, Lord of the Rings suffers from the same issue that castle sets do now with LEGO. There's just zero support under the top tier price brackets. Whereas sets such as Gandalf Arrives or the Uruk-hai Army that were there in the original lineup of sets, it just feels like LEGO are catering to almost just one end of the market, and in my opinion that kind of sucks, and means that as it stands, Lord of the Rings is the most disappointing theme around in 2024. Moving on to a theme that we can be a whole lot more positive about though, and for me this is the theme of 2024, even if it does have one big drawback. It's a brand new theme for 2024 that's hit the ground running. Again, not a theme that's aimed towards me, but wow. LEGO Fortnite smashed it out of the park, with the only real drawback to the launch being that there's only 4 sets to purchase, plus one GWP Brickhead set that was available at the theme launch, and again here in December. The lowest price set was the Durr Burger at $15, and whilst this isn't anything standout, its design was executed excellently and will make a great stocking filler for plenty of kids and teens, I'm sure. The supply llama at $40 with 691 pieces, albeit mainly small ones, is decent value, and again the execution here is close to perfect, with even the colour matching being excellent, apart from the bit sitting in the llama's mouth, which LEGO did in reddish brown instead of black or dark grey. You'd think it would be difficult to get better than the supply llama, but both of the $100 sets were just excellent, with each having a claim to be the best LEGO set overall of the year. I think that the Peely Bone set with 1,414 pieces for the $100 price tag would be my personal choice as the best set. I mean, look at this. Could you have predicted LEGO producing a set showing a character's entrails before this came out? It's absolutely awesome, and has a claim to be the best video game themed set around, even beating out that Horizon Tallneck set from a few years back. Probably the only criticism that could be levelled at the Peely Bone was the lack of a minifigure, but that's where the other $100 Fortnite set comes in, and that's the Battle Bus, which has 9 top tier minifigures including a Peely one, all intact this time, and looks super accurate to the in-game Battle Bus. Has some cool play features, including the ability to detach it from the balloon that sits atop it, and the pretty unprecedented ability to get all 9 of those minifigs inside the bus at the same time. How many times have we seen LEGO vehicles such as trains and buses where it's close to impossible to put more than 2 or 3 figures inside? Both the Battle Bus and Peely Bone have been in short supply, available through back order pretty much since release, and this looks to have been a really successful hookup between Epic Games and LEGO, inclusive of the actual LEGO Fortnite video game itself. Just overall, what a debut, only being held back by the limited number and supply of the sets. That supply issue is because it's been so popular, and deservedly so. The theme of 2024 has to be LEGO Fortnite. What do you guys think? Did I get that completely wrong, and that with just the one set, plus the brickheads, that Lord of the Rings actually had a great 2024? Is LEGO Fortnite overrated? Is there a theme out there that I didn't give due consideration? I mean, I didn't mention Star Wars after all. Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, think about hitting that like button, and for more builds and reviews, you can hit the subscribe button too. And with that, I'll leave you and say Merry Christmas, and as always, be good.